What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones, hashtag BYP from our very good friends over at Play It Again Sports. Check them out online. And of course, 1450 Clemensburg Road in Deptford, New Jersey. Our NBA insider, we didn't know if he was disheveled because of what transpired with his Philadelphia 76ers or if he's jumped on the Boston Celtics bandwagon. My guy, my good friend Jonathan Marshall at John_Marshall3, and of course, sports reporter anchor at WMUR. And wow. So I guess we'll get into the conference finals respectively in a moment. We'll get into draft lottery. We'll get into Ja Morant, but we have to start, my friend, as I take a little sip of the hot.
Nice mug, by the way. Nice
Thank
mug.
you very much.
I know where this is going. I know
the branding, by the way. We have to start with your Philadelphia 76ers.
Yes.
We'll get to the firing of Doc Rivers, which was earlier today. But the fact, Jonathan, that this team friggin' rolled over like a bunch of dogs. Now, you know this. There's the DAWG. You want those guys. Then there's the DOG. You don't want those guys. They were the DOG on Sunday. And the two biggest culprits, the MVP and Joel Embiid, who was MIA, and then the bearded one, James Harden. And for the life of me, how many years have we had this conversation? Why in the world would somebody have this preconceived notion that James Harden, out of the blue, was going to step up in a big spot on the road in the fourth quarter in a game 7? Because if you believe that, I have swampland that I want to sell you right now in Florida. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Where do we start, Q? It's been a tough couple of days for Philly fans, right? It's been a tough few years, just this whole process era. And I think it hurts because you want to believe in a team, right? And you can sense Sixers fans, you go on Sixers Twitter, there was this hesitancy, right? Like, this team might be different. We have a PJ Tucker. We have some guys that maybe can, some mental toughness, right? This could be different this year. But it goes back to the old saying, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. James Harden, what has he been? Joel Embiid, what has he proven in the playoffs? He's always hurt. Lo and behold, he's hurt. He gets tired. At the end of the games, he's not there. Doc Rivers, what has he been? He's still the same coach who gave up that 3-1 lead with the Clippers. Yeah. These aren't coincidences. This is reality. So you put Doc Rivers together, his history, his recent history, outside of what he did with the Celtics. You put James Harden there, Joel Embiid in the mix, and this is what you have, right? And I'm not even shocked. Like, people are asking me how I feel. I'm not shocked. I'm more disappointed that they keep proving you right year after year after year. I look at the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum is 25. Jaylen Brown is 26. Marcus Smart is 29. This is like they've been to a handful of Eastern Conference Finals. What is James Harden proven? What is Joel Embiid? What is Joel Embiid proven over the years? So when it comes to it, when I keep talking about the 76ers this year, it's always been not the talent, but mentally. When things get tough, that third quarter, things got tough. They got hit pretty hard. How do you respond?
They didn't answer the bell. Listen, they're soft. Yeah. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I mean, it's the elephant in the room. That Joel Embiid is going to be a Hall of Famer, right? We'll probably agree he's going to the Hall of Fame someday. Great center. Soft. Soft. He does not have that killer instinct. James Harden will turn back the clock once in a while and give you that vintage game where it's 35 points. But again, he's not the same player. My buddies are diehard Sixers fans like you, and they were so astute with some of their points. I mean, look, 5, 6, 7 years ago, what is he doing? I'm attacking the tin. Now he can't elevate. So when he tries to attack the tin, it's now not primarily go to the basket. It's secondary, dish off. He doesn't have that killer instinct. He's not a clutch player. And is it crazy to say this? He might be one of the all-time great scorers in NBA history, but yet so overrated when it comes to the big moment because he's never delivered. He's never, ever delivered. And going back to Embiid for a second, and I've debated this with you, and I've debated it on the air, on radio for years. You're that size, man. I'm tired of hearing about this is the new NBA. Plant your ass on the low block. Like, honestly, plant your ass on the low block. I'm not saying doing every possession, but you want to play the wing. You're not a wing. You're not Joker. You're not him. And it boggles my mind. And I'm wondering, it seems to me there's a major disconnect. Look, you can lose a game 7 on the road. There's no shame in that. But they got waxed. And to your point, they didn't answer the bell, right? You saw the tees, you saw a couple fouls, you saw the momentum change. It's like in a fight, you get the swing rounds. They never got off the mat. Who do we blame for that? Is it just the players and this is who they are? This is who that makeup, this is what they are? Or do we now get into Doc, who got fired?
I don't think it's always as simple as one person getting the blame. I think it's an organizational thing from top to bottom. Look at the Miami Heat, look at the Boston Celtics, the Denver Nuggets. The Lakers are a whole different, that's a whole different stratosphere, right? You got LeBron, AD. But Denver, Miami, Boston, right? You talk about the Heat culture. These are teams that have proven that they can develop a winning culture, a winning environment. Miami has what, 3-4 undrafted guys that are actually out there contributing. So that comes to talent evaluation, developing, even in quote unquote down years for a Miami Heat team, they're still in this position. Yeah. So this is a top down thing from the front office to the coaching staff to the players. You can't pinpoint one area. This is an organizational failure. They have not committed to really developing talent, evaluating talent. Outside of Tyrese Maxey, what other young talents do they have up the pipe?
Yeah.
Denver has multiple. Celtics, Tatum's 26. I mean, Brown's 26, Tatum's 25. Like, they just haven't developed that winning environment, and we're seeing the results of it. Like, you have great talent, so it can get you to a certain point, but then you face a Boston Celtics team, and it's a different level. It's just a different level.
And that's the thing. And again, I chuckle when I used to hear people, give me Simmons over Tatum. I mean, can we drug test it right now? I mean, Jason Tatum is a superstar. And coincidentally enough, these final 4 teams, these were the same teams a couple of years ago in the bubble, right? So, maybe there's something to be said about that. I do want to get back to what you mentioned from top to bottom, an organizational failure, right? Because when I look at this franchise, it's a losing franchise. I'm sorry. Like, you can talk about what Doc's been able to do and another, semifinal loss. They haven't passed the second round 6 straight years, 154-82, 20-15 in the playoffs. They last made the conference finals in 2001. It's a loser's mentality. And it's not even trust to crap. I'm so tired of hearing about that, because what would have happened is if they would have won in game 7 on the road, people would have said, this is why you got to trust it. Now it's like I like when people are telling me not to bring it up anymore, but yet if they win or they would have won, then they're going to revert back to that because it fits their narrative. The bottom line is what they tried to do, whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent, or just a norm in the NBA, has blown up in their face. So now you've got a GM that fell in love with a player. Why? Because they had a relationship in Houston, not the same player, fell in love with the name on the back of the jersey. And that player was asked the other day pretty much about the head coach. And let's just say he did not give a ringing endorsement. So the NFL, if you're not happy, we're going to trade your ass. The NBA, if the player's not happy, the coach gets fired. Now, I have not been the biggest Doc Rivers fan, but doesn't there something need to be said that James Harden doesn't give him the ringing endorsement? Joel Embiid never takes accountability, always says, I, it's, we. Can you sometimes say I, or me when it matters? They're talking about, 5 players on the floor. And I know that comment was taken out of context. I understand to some extent, but the bottom line is the players in the NBA are so friggin' soft. Toronto, get rid of the head coach. The guy won a championship. Phoenix, get rid of the head coach. They're going to win 50 games every single solitary friggin' year. Milwaukee, get rid of the head coach. They just won a championship a couple of years ago. Like, what are we doing? Like, who's running the show here? Is it the players? Is it the GM? Is it ownership? If you're the 76ers, do you believe that Morey should be on the hot seat? They should make a change when it comes to Morey? And how much of the fault, or if you want to say the hammer had to be thrown down on Doc Rivers, like how much do we put on Doc?
Morey should be on the hot seat. And I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with that hiring because the James Harden connection. Now we're hearing Mike D'Antoni. Like, what are you trying to do?
What have they proven together?
Nothing. And so that relationship, that connection already should make you uncomfortable because I just can't stand the retread coaches. We know what the Mike Dan. I was in high school when he was coaching the Suns, right? Like I was a kid, right? Like we know what that's about. Yeah. I saw that, been there. I was, that's a long time ago. Q.
You were interning for me.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you kidding me? Like that's a whole way pre-pandemic, right? That's a whole different life. Yeah. And so the Daryl Morey situation, no, granted, he didn't give Tobias Harris that crazy contract. Let's talk about that.
Fair point.
Elton Brand. Let's talk about it, right? You talked about the organization. Okay, let's go back to the drafting of Mikal Bridges and trading him for a guy who's not even in the G League anymore, Zaire Smith, right? Tobias Harris over me. Jimmy Butler said that. These are certain decisions that I talk about when it comes to this. It's a top-down thing. This organization hasn't been, it's been unserious. All these moves that they've made, trading Mikal Bridges, not having Jimmy Butler, like these are things that led up to this point, and they have to live with it now. Like, and when it comes to this coaching vacancy, I'm not so sure I want this job. Honestly, I really don't, because I don't trust management to make the right personnel decisions, for me to have the right pieces to coach. I just don't trust it. I don't.
So that's a fair point you bring up, because there's not a lot of these jobs available. But to your point, we talk about it like in the NFL, the retread mentality. Like I've heard, the retread names out there, Williams and Nurse, and you just mentioned D'Antoni, Sam Cassell, maybe it's his time to kind of rise through the ranks. Jay Wright, forget about it. That's just, he's not leaving the booth. He loves what he does. And why would he want to take that job, to your point? And I guess I would counter that. Well, you have arguably one of the top 3, 4, 5 players in the NBA, and you can build around him. That's what most would say. But I'm starting to see some cracks in the armor here, where it is such a players' league. Now, you might think this is outlandish. You might say, Q, you're off your rocker with this. I believe some point during the summer, a quote's going to come out of potentially Embiid's mouth. I'm just speculating. And the media and the talking heads and the NBA insiders are going to take it and run with it, where basically you almost get this sense that he wants out of Philadelphia.
It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, just based off the tone of the press conference on Sunday, his comments, it really wouldn't shock me, because, he'll be 30 next year. Looking at the landscape, it's like, have I exhausted everything here in Philly?
That's my point.
Especially the reaction from the fan base too. How that can get in Philly, a market like Philly as well, how the fans have reacted, rightfully so. How does a player handle that? We've seen certain players in the past not be able to deal with that and react, so it wouldn't shock me.
It's just fascinating. It is, because, and I'm not a Sixers fan, but it's a hot topic only because I think a lot of people were weary of the hiring of Doc Rivers. I think a lot of people thought right away, oh, Morey's coming in, this guy's going to wheel and deal, here you go. But then it's almost like a lower level nepotism, if you will. Like, I'm just going to hire my guys. I'm going to hire my buddies. I'm bringing in James Harden is shot. He's a shot fighter.
He's cooked.
So, but now you've got the big man, I'm watching this game and I'm thinking to myself, PJ Tucker's got to bail him out.
Yeah.
Tobias
Harris actually played well Sunday.
But
yeah, 19.
But how do you justify you're an NBA MVP?
Yep.
And you we debated this over the last several years, his place right in the Pantheon in today's game. You're the MVP. It's a game 7. Going into that game, and I tweeted this out, forget about James Harden, Joel Embiid, that could have been a referendum on his career. That could have been a career-defining game, 38-16, 4 blocks, Sixers win, shut me up. Now it's just, hey, you're another dude that just won a league MVP. Like, sorry, like what the hell have you won in this league? Nothing.
I've talked to people about this, and even before what happened in the playoff series, it's time to start shopping him around. And I don't think that's a crazy idea at this point. And
I got hammered for saying it the other day.
Because listen, number one, he'll be 30 next year. I mean, let me reiterate that. He's been hurt every year. And in today's, I asked this question, Q, when's the last time a team has won a championship with the post player being the best player? It might change with Jokic, but he's such a special dynamic player, so I can't even put him in that category. When's the last time a post-oriented team, the way that Philly plays, so oriented with Embiid being the dominant figure, won a championship?
I mean, can I go back and say San Antonio? If I'm kind of,
it's a whole different NBA then.
Right, because it's always right. The NBA is a two-man game. It's a pick and roll. That's all it is. Pop off the screen. That's it, right? Exactly. Give me my perimeter shooter, penetrate, kick out. There you go. Boom, boom, boom.
So if they if they say, okay, the Harden situation is just a whole nother situation. Okay, but let's say we stick with Joel for the next few years. They're in danger of being like a Portland East. You have Dame, you have this talented player, and then what? What else? The Bucks aren't, Giannis isn't going anywhere. The Celtics are just hitting their stride, right? So you expect the Cavaliers to get better. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. You expect Evan Mobley to evolve as he gets older, right? That's three teams that you're already competing with, right?
Yep.
Brooklyn, who knows? They have Mikal Bridges, some nice pieces. Maybe they actually make some right moves. I like Jacques Vaughn as a coach. I'm glad he has an opportunity. Who knows what happens there? Your Knicks, they have Jalen Brunson. I would love to see what they add to that mix. So it's not going to be easy treading for the Sixers over the next couple of years in the Eastern Conference. So you have Joel Embiid, but is that competing with the Bostons, the Milwaukees, the Clevelands over the next few years? And who knows if Vic when Banyama heads to the East, if he goes to Detroit, what that looks like in the next 2-3 years, right? That's a whole nother situation, right? So I'm thinking 4 years down the road, where is this franchise?
Yeah.
Might be the best value you can get for Joel at this point right now. This might be the highest peak. You're playing with fire right now. You're playing with fire for this team being irrelevant in the next few years. It sounds crazy to say, but it's happening in Portland.
It's not. And I'm going to tell you why. Because one thing we've learned in sports is that there is maybe a finite number of players that we would deem untouchable.
Right.
How many times in Eagles, right? Can't trade Carson Wentz. Can't trade Donovan. Listen, we've seen it, right? And those are just, small sample size. I'm just saying in our backyard. And if you do that, you are in essence, pardon the phrase, blowing it up. You are starting from scratch. But see, people don't want to hear this. If you're going to sit there and applaud and get on him for being that killer, that dog and winning the MVP, and here you go, put them on their back, time to go, then how do you not get on him for one of the biggest disappearing acts in a game 7 that we've ever seen in Philadelphia 76ers franchise history? Oh, by the way.
Not just game 7, Q. It was game 6 too. The last few minutes of game 6, but he
didn't touch the ball. His last shot was 357. Now, who do we blame on that? Is it the player not saying, "Give me the friggin' damn ball," or is it on the head coach?
We always applaud the greats who demand the ball, right?
Hey, listen.
That's why we praise the greats. They want the ball in those moments, right? That's just what it is.
Yeah. I'll tell you, man,
Philly has to be careful. They have to be, this is a very important offseason. Are they going to stick with the status quo? Or are they going to really say, okay, you know what, this isn't working. We got to make a change all around.
But here's the thing, you still got to do something. You're saying status quo, you still have to retool around him if you're going to keep him. And it sounds crazy. It sounds almost ludicrous that I'm going to cut bait with Embiid a couple months after winning the MVP. It does. It sounds absolutely crazy. But stranger things have happened. A head coach can win an NBA title and then all of a sudden win 20 games the next year and get fired.
At what point do you cut bait though, right? Like at what point is it? I'd rather let go a little early than hold on for too long. That's just right.
That's like life, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like if you're in a relationship that isn't going anywhere, You're just holding on because I don't know if I can find anybody
there might
better.
be underlining circumstances. So.
I'm just saying, like,
I hear you.
You gotta cut bait. I'd rather cut bait just a little early than hold on for too long and you're left with nothing. You just wasted time.
Was Rivers a scapegoat?
Of course, coaches are always a scapegoat, right?
So you don't hold on. So you don't believe he should have been fired?
He should have been hired. No, I agree with the coaching change, but I think Harden needs to go. I think there's wholesale change. Tobias Harris needs to go. And you need to shop around Joel Embiid. Like from top to bottom. When I say top to bottom, Q, wipe it clean.
Hey, listen.
If I was the GM of this team, heads will be spinning.
Listen,
everybody's going to accept Tyrese Maxey. I can rock with Tyrese. Everybody else, gone.
B-ball Paul?
He's gone. Gone. You see these teams hooping in the playoffs right now? Denver, you see what they have? Boston?
It's just funny because I just remember getting hammered. You know, you're such a Philly hater. And, you know, I got cut off from the 76ers from getting players because I was critical of them. Like, I give a crap. And now it's like, blow it up and rip off the Band-Aid. Here we go.
They did this to themselves. Just imagine this team with the Mikal Bridges and what he offers with this 3-and-D and who he is now in Brooklyn. You know, imagine.
It is a lot of money. Yeah, but again, I play devil's advocate here, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. A lot of it is Monday morning quarterbacking, right? But I still also, part of me believes one of the reasons they would even consider what we are suggesting is because I think truth serum to a man, is it just possible you can have a great player, but just feel we're never going to win with him?
Yeah. I mean, let's not confuse great talents with winning talents. We've seen that all across sports, right? Like Dan Marino, some people consider the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah. Doesn't make him any less of a quarterback.
Exactly.
Fascinating stuff. All right, listen, you got Boston and Miami. I mean, obviously Miami's the dog in this series. I think it's going to be tough to win on the road. But again, we've seen it before with, you know, the bench. Butler has a tendency to take over, even though he's not 100%. I just think Boston is just clicking on all cylinders right now. And Tatum is in such a zone. I can see Miami winning a game or two, but I do like Boston to win that series.
I mean, this series went 7 last year, right?
Yeah.
I think the one edge that Miami has is the coach, Eric Spoelstra versus Joe Mazzulla, who's been under a lot of fire. But concerning the situation, he has a team in the conference finals. So, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. The proof's in the pudding, right? I think with Boston and watching this team throughout the season, the one thing that can get in their way is themselves mentally with their self-inflicted wounds, the turnovers. Just like, I'm shocked that the series against Philly went 7 games. You know what I mean? Like, it could have easily been a 3-1. They could have easily won that series 4-1, right? They gave up one in game 1. Like, that was a total shock. So they are the better team in this series, and they may be the most complete team left in the playoffs, period, right? And so I think it comes down to, will Jason Tatum be locked in each and every night? And will their shots fall? If their shots are falling, if they're defensively, if they're locked in, they should win this series in 6. I'll give Miami two wins. Just out of respect for what they've proven to be over the last few years with Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler. I just respect that organization so much. But if Boston is clicking, if they're firing like we saw in game 7, which that could have been a huge game for that team anyway, just how they were playing so well defensively and how Jason Tatum was just, he was in his bag, Hugh. Like, I've never seen him play that was just an amazing performance. And so that could be a huge shift for them heading into this series. And Boston should win. I just think they have too much.
Yeah, it's funny because imagine if that game got a little more tighter in that fourth quarter, the Sixers and Boston, right? Because if it flipped the other way, we'd be hammering the Celtics right now. And all right, what are they doing in the offseason? You know, you got Tatum, or you getting rid of, that's just the nature of the beast. And I think, you know, defensively, I trust their interior, you know, the defense in the paint. I mean, Horford, we saw him go up against Embiid. You know, we saw him knock down a couple shots as well. I do like Boston in that series. And then you got Denver and the Lakers. And I'll be the first to say it. I said it with the big man Brandon Jacobs on the 27Q podcast. I said it a couple months ago. Lakers are friggin' cooked. They're shot. They're done. Yeah. And here we go. Once again, foot in the mouth. I got to eat the crow because this is a team that was 43-39, had no friggin' business. We were killing LeBron for for resting or being hurt. And all of a sudden, who do they trade? Who do they get rid of?
Russell Westbrook. Yeah.
And now, right, in the Western Conference Finals, you get rid of the Grizz, you get rid of Golden State, both in 6 games respectively. I feel as though the Lakers right now, and you tell me if you agree. Let me walk back that comment. I feel LeBron right now, I'm looking at LeBron like I look at Tom Brady. I can't doubt him.
Yeah.
Right. You understand what I'm saying? Like
at
this point, go ahead, LeBron, just do what you're going to do, because as he inches closer and closer, you just get the sense he's more hungry, he's more focused, he's more disciplined, and he wants to put these guys on his back. And look, I'll go out on the record. I think the Lakers win this series.
I think so.
I'm going to say 7 games.
7 games. Okay. Well, you're right about the whole Bron and Tom Brady thing. I think if you have LeBron on your team, you have a chance.
Yeah.
Even in year 20, it's amazing to see him compete at such a high level still. He's not 100%, you can tell, right? But he's still able to leave his imprint on the game, which is amazing. I think this is Denver's year. And it's, I really started to believe in them, I guess, halfway through the season, because we've seen Denver be great during the regular season, right? Even during these playoffs, there's just a certain energy and feel that you get when watching a certain team. You say, you know what? There's just a consistency with how they play, and I trust it. And that's what I see from Denver. There's an energy that this team plays with, especially at home, which they haven't lost all there. They're undefeated at home.
Yeah, they're tough out there. Yep.
Denver, but Nikola Jokic, how they play around him, those pieces, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown off the bench has been amazing for them. I just like the main piece of the Joker, but the surrounding pieces and how they play so well off of him with his passing ability, just his playmaking ability as well. Just it makes them such a tough team to compete against. And they have the athletes. I think they have the athletes to defend the Lakers. I think, with Golden State, I mean, they just were outmatched. You know what I mean? They just were.
And they're getting an older team. You knew they were, for a team that won it all last year, you just saw, remember, they had that stretch where they couldn't win a game. I think it was on the road during the season. You just felt they were due to get picked off. But you mentioned Jokic, Murray, Porter, Gordon. To me, Davis, it's very easy to say the X factor. He's got to dominate.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to play both ends of the floor, and forget about the stat line being 25 and 10. You need to see 25, 15, maybe 6 or 7 blocks, right? And really just taking over the game, because I can't expect LeBron James to log 36, 37, 38 minutes over potentially 7 games. I can't.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hell of a series, though.
I like Denver in 6.
All right. Let's get to the one elephant in the room, Ja Morant.
Here we go again.
Yeah. Well, we just talked about him. How long ago? 2 months?
Yeah.
So here's my thought on this. The Memphis turns around and we're going to suspend you, stay away, team activities. Okay. The NBA is still going to investigate. We know the NBA's thought process. They're thinking in their verbiage when it comes to brandishing firearms. And, I've heard people all over the place, from the left to the right to the center, right to carry. Listen, man, here's the bottom line. This young man, he's not a kid. Okay. He's a young man, but stop trying to play that part. It ain't you, my friend. And the problem is, when you flash a gun, when you flash the cash, the jewelry, when you want to play the gangster, when you want to play the thug, when you want to play the hard ass, and you're doing it on social media, you know what you're doing? You're putting that on your back. So what's going to happen is he's going to find himself in a position where, God forbid, you start waving this and that, it's going to turn around and shove it right up his ass. And I'm sorry to say it like that, but I see where this is going. And I think the problem is who I'm hanging out with. I'm not hiring security, and I'm also trying to be something I'm not. You've got millions at stake. You're a great player. You're young. You're charismatic. You're a good-looking kid. You got the energy. what the hell are you thinking? Like, that's at the end of the day, like, what are you thinking? What are you trying to prove when you just stood up there a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago, and basically said, you know, the difference of right and wrong. You know, it was a bad look. Optics are everything. Perception is everything. That's not who I am. And then in a New York Minute, you turn around and you do the same exact crap, and you're dumb enough, once again, you and your boys, to post it.
Mm-hmm.
It bothers me because after a while, you just have to say, that's it, man. If I'm the NBA, I suspend him the entire season. That's what I do. That's number one. Second of all, if he does this one more time, I give him a lifetime ban. And it sounds so harsh, and it sounds, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. What are you talking about? Old man screaming on the porch? No, because we've been down this road before. I've seen this play. I've seen this movie. We know how it ends. No one's sitting there saying this guy is being chased down. This guy's being hounded. But stop trying to play something that you're not. Stop trying to play that part, because there's guys out there now on social media saying, man, wait till this dude rolls into our town.
Yeah. It's disappointing. And, you know, we can talk about who he's hanging around, outside influences, but Ja has to look within himself, right? Like, he's
100%.
making, these are choices that he's making. He has to own, like, he's not a kid, right? He's a grown man with a lot of money and a lot of power and responsibility. And he has to realize that. And for change to really come, a person really has to see the wrong in what they're doing. And if obviously he doesn't see the issue in what he's doing, because he's still doing it. So that's how you know that the time that he was away, it was a short period, because no change internally is really getting done in a week, 2 week period, in a month period, right? How much change is really being done, right? So that was a joke anyway in itself. But until he really understands the severity of the situation and how wrong and it's a bad look for himself, like, just period. It's just an overall bad look in all ways you look at it. Until he realizes that, there won't be any change. And unfortunately for some people, as you alluded to, there won't come a time when they get to realize that. It might be too late. And I've told people this. I said, look, there's one thing to be on IG and acting a part, but there's real life, right? And so when you portray a certain lifestyle, you're going to attract that lifestyle.
100%,
right?
100%. Bingo. 100%.
You are. The people that you're around, the energy that you're bringing in certain areas, certain cities, they don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You do not. So forget about your Nike deal. Forget about the Grizzlies. This is your life that you're playing with, and other people's lives as well, literally. Because anything can go off, and we've seen it with athletes in these nightclubs. We've seen it. We've heard these stories, right? Like, and so this isn't just about basketball. This is about his life. And until he understands the severity and how fragile this is, it's not a game. And some people don't realize it until it's too late.
And that's the problem, because the younger athlete, today's athlete, believes they're invincible, and they believe they can get away with anything, and they're guarded, shielded, protected. That's not really the case, because a lot of these guys, their crew, their boys, they'll sell them out in a second.
Yep.
They will sell them out in a second for cat. I'll never forget that one line in Training Day when Denzel's like, when he popped the one guy, and Ethan Hawke was like, I can't believe you did that to your friend. He's like, why? Because he knew my name? Like, think about it. Like, some of these guys that are hanging around Ja's friends of friends of friends, they're sitting there saying, man, this is a good score.
There's a lot of hate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And people
want to see your downfall.
People don't want to talk. They don't want to start talking about that. They don't want to dive into that kind of area where, all right, let's see now. You got a young African-American player who's making millions of dollars, and he's brandishing a gun thinking he's playing that part. Now, all of a sudden, you got a bunch of guys on the corner looking at their phone saying, wait till this guy rolls into town next year. Like,
people do not care.
They don't.
They don't care if you're a ball player, an entertainer. They don't care. We've seen stories repeatedly of people losing their lives way too early to guns. Like,
yeah.
I mean, how many times do we have to see these stories for people to realize, like, it's not a game? It's like, it's not a game.
But what does the NBA do? What do they do? Because remember now, you've got that verbiage in contracts, right?
Yeah.
So there's another thing. Is Memphis going to turn around and say he's just not worth the headache?
I told some friends of mine who are in Memphis who are Grizzlies fans, I said, you know what? In a year or so, I can see the Grizzlies getting off of Ja Morant because the risk versus the reward, it's not adding to me.
Yeah.
It's not matching. Because this team we saw in the playoffs what happened this year. So what's the risk to me is a little higher than a reward at this point. It's not worth it. Because at the end of the day, you're hurt. You're a business, right? Even when Ja Morant's gone, the Grizzlies are still going to be here. We have to look out for the franchise number one, right? The Grizzlies, the NBA, they don't need these players.
Bingo.
Like there's a kid from France who's all the rage right now tonight. Wembanyama. Bye. We got this kid from France. Like it's real talk. Like,
the players need the league.
Yeah,
the league doesn't need the players, man. Because when Bird, Magic, when Jordan, when Thomas, when Patrick, when Elijah, when they all, Iverson, when they all retired, last time I checked, the league continued to still play games.
Hello, Bron, Steph, Giannis, KD. Hello, Vic. Like, it's always next. Who's next?
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, I mean, until a person realizes the severity of what they're doing and what they're doing is wrong, there's not going to be any change. So that's what it is. Ja doesn't think he's doing anything that's wrong. Yeah. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm living my life. I'm young. I'm rich. Whatever.
That's the problem.
He doesn't realize he's doing anything wrong. That's why there isn't any change. Because if it was truly sincerity in the apology and needing to change, which is what he talked about, there would be change. Is there change?
What do you think the NBA is going to do? I think they're going to make an example out of him and humble his ass.
I can see a 25-game suspension at least. I can see that.
Oh, I don't think you can't do 25 games. What'd they give him before?
I think it was 8.
Okay, and he just turned around. How many weeks later?
Not a few weeks, not long. A couple months, yeah.
Right. When you're little, don't touch the stove. The second time, didn't you get smacked?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's tough. I don't know what they do. They're going to do something. I think they have to. But again, you can do all the suspending you want. If Ja doesn't understand the severity of it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If I take away your livelihood for an entire season, that doesn't wake you up to straighten out and to just understand perception, right? Everything's perception.
Yeah.
Get on that right path, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's a bad guy.
No.
I just think the line of thinking is just, he's got to mature, right? And with the money and the talent, that comes responsibility. So if I take your livelihood away and I strip you of that, and now all of a sudden you're the average Joe and I humbled you a little bit.
Yeah.
The first time you step on the court, I'm telling you right there, this is your final shot or you're going to be banned.
Yeah.
And people will think of that. They'll think it's ludicrous to absolutely say, but you and I have been covering sports for a long time, man. So we know how this potentially could end.
This is a matter of life at this point. That's what this is. Like, forget about Ja, the ball player. This is about Ja, the person. He has to get it together.
No doubt.
Because it doesn't end well. It doesn't. When you're talking about guns and alcohol and just nothing good is going to come from that.
And
nothing.
You mentioned it, man. A lot of haters out there.
Yeah.
You never walk into a place you can't walk out of. A lot of haters out there. Jonathan Marshall. I had John_Marshall3, reporter and sports anchor WMUR. All right. You mentioned the kid's name that unfortunately I can't pronounce. Can I just call him Wamba?
Victor Wembanyama.
Wembanyama. There you go. So you got the draft lottery tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. You're the expert here. Are we talking about the greatest prospect the league has ever seen? What's he? How tall is this kid?
7'4", I think they're saying.
And he's hitting threes.
He's hitting one-footed floaters from 3. Q. He's so I don't. This is like one of those creative players you would make as a kid on the video games. Like, let's make the tallest player with everything at 100, right?
Well, let me cut you off there because you guys had the more advanced games. I was stuck with double dribble, so we were breaking backboards, or I was just lined up right in the corner for my 3-pointers.
This is the evolution of the ball player, right? So you think about Magic, right? How he revolutionized the game. Penny, KG,
Yeah.
Then you have the T-Max of the world, the KDs, the Dirk Nowitzkis, the Jokers, the
Just throw
Embiid.
them all in a pot.
This is like the Giannis's. This is like the full evolution of what we're talking about. Positionless basketball, the unicorn. With this size, he can handle it. He can defend. He can shoot it. I don't know how you're going to defend his shot. Like, the shot is pure, Q. Like, how are you going to defend that? He's 7'4" with a wingspan that's crazy. How do you defend that? And defensively, how are you going to get over that? I just don't know. Now, greatest prospect the league has ever seen. I mean, I remember being in middle school and high school and seeing the LeBron craze. He's not an American player, so it's different.
Yeah.
If Vic was an American player, forget it. It'd be unbelievable.
I know it's very early to say, but what's the ideal potential landing spot for him? Charlotte,
I mean,
Houston.
I know Detroit has the best odds. Houston. Right. I've been telling people I would love to see him in San Antonio. I would love it. They have a Keldon Johnson. They have some nice young players around him. They just need that one guy to grow and develop with. The Spurs, we can trust them with evaluating and developing talent. Even though they're losing, they've knocked the ballpark. They've knocked it out the ballpark with certain young guys. Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. They just need that piece. And Vic could be that piece, right? How about that in San Antonio, the land of Tim Duncan? They get Vic now, years later.
Not bad, not bad.
Get Coach Pop a second wind.
Yeah, if I would have known this, I would have wanted the Knicks to tank.
So Philly needs to. I mean, come on now. I would trade Embiid for Vic now. I would. At least there's hope. With this current Sixers team, what are we hoping for? That's just where it's at.
You're a little feisty tonight.
Because, Q, how many times do we have to see this team flop in the second round year after? Is
this the objective, Jonathan Marshall, the reporter, journalist, media, or is this the fan, Jonathan? Because because when I text you or when I shot you text and you were like, "Hey, I'm ready," I said, "Bring your lunch pail to work," and you're just, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I've never seen you as animated like this before over your losing franchise.
Because Q, it's football season. Howie Roseman had a great draft. We're getting all the Georgia Bulldogs in here. I think we're going to do it this year, Q. I can respect the Eagles, what we've done.
This is ludicrous.
We won a few years ago, and we're back at it again. That's a respectable and serious franchise that doesn't rely on the status quo. They don't get comfortable. They do whatever it takes to get better, and that's what they've done. The Sixers, on the meanwhile, gave Tobias Harris almost $200 million. You tell me. You tell me who to believe.
Hey, I got my own problems. I got to worry about getting rid of Randall. Obi Toppin ain't popping. Barrett is what it is. I got one player on that team. One player on that team is Brunson. That's it.
That's a good start, though.
If you were the Knicks, would you trade for Embiid?
Yeah, I would. Why not? Because you have a point guard who can actually play. We saw how Brunson delivered in the playoffs, right?
I guess, and I say it in tongue in cheek, and I know we got to wrap it up. I guess the question is, I feel as though when we look, is anyone ever going to, how do I say this? The argument is you have to have the right coach. Like, that's another thing, right? If people sit there and say coaches don't matter in the NBA, then why the frig are they always getting fired?
It matters. Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's just kind of poo-poo that real quick. So who is the right fit for Embiid? I guess is the question. Like, will we ever see the traditional get him on the low blocker? This is who he is right now.
He'll be 30 next year, Q.
I listen.
Point.
You reiterated several times how old he's going to. You're saying he's not going to change his stripes.
You are who you are. This is who James Harden is. I don't know. I don't see any changes happening. No, this is who they are.
You're covering the Eastern Conference Finals.
I'll be at Game 1 tomorrow, which will feature the Boston Celtics, not the Sixers, against the Miami Heat.
He is Jonathan Marshall, our Hoops Insider at John_Marshall3, Sports Report Anchor, WMUR, bringing a little bit of the heat on this Tuesday edition of BYP. Always appreciate you jumping on board, pal.
Go Eagles. It's football season.
Get out of here. We'll talk next week. Appreciate you.